right. I have to make this and idols. You know the commandment that you would not have any like idols before God, right? There's an interesting like lecture I heard on TED Talks, and it was about people who spend a lot of time on introspection, thinking about themselves, how to fix themselves, how to change the way they act, da 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 da. And what they found out is that there was no correlation, positive correlation between thought about themselves. Number one, whether they were the more people thought about themselves, the less they seemed to actually truly know themselves when they had them take surveys, regarding their own behavior that they did. And I thought that was, and this is really irritating. I don't know that my phone's just going, but that's because I have to get leaving. But the point is that people who think about themselves a lot are less likely to change who they are, and they're less in touch with who they actually truly are, which is fascinating because that means that when they're thinking about themselves, they're not actually thinking about themselves. They're thinking about an image of themselves, right? An idol, you might say, right? So that's something that, like, it's just true. It's an image. And so anytime that you're what you're focused on is not God like centered out, like out there, um, you've got an image that you're looking at. It's not God, though. It's an image. And so that's why you love your Lord your God with all your heart and your mind and your soul, is because otherwise you're going to have idols because you have to be single-minded in your focus of God. And then when you do that, you know, everything else falls in line. But all right, so that's mostly it on images and idols. It's kind of like this. If you get a focal point, if you're like meditating and you put a dot on the wall and you just stare at it, after a while you can't see the dot anymore. You're just staring at an empty space, right? And it's kind of like as you look outside of yourself, that's when like okay, how can I state this? When you sort of, it causes you to sort of like disappear. When you disappear to your own self, when you're not looking at your own self, that's when you're more dense. That's when God can see you more, other people can see you more. That's when you take on density. But when you're staring at your own self, you literally lose your density. It's hard for I mean, if you think about it this way, in this earthly plane that we're in, our bodies are made up of the stuff of God. And so God is looking through all of our eyes and feeling through all of our bodies all at the same time. Which is an interesting thought, because if God was just thinking about himself and his image, then he would have destroyed us a long time ago. But he's putting the example out there like, I'm going to think about you guys first. And that's when he takes on being more powerful and more benign and more likely to step in. But we also, how we relate to God is important too. That's how we get God here into this realm that we're in, is how we relate to God. And when we put like God first and other people first, the rest of it all will just fall in line. But when we put an image of ourselves in front of us that we're looking at in the mirror, instead of like looking through the mirror of prophecy and looking at God, then we're not going to change. We literally have no introspection, and we're not even seeing ourselves. That's what studies have shown. You're not seeing yourself. If you're thinking about yourself, you are actually not seeing yourself. That means you're thinking about something that's clearly not you. What is it? It's an image. So that's the that's the trick, I think, guys, to not having an idol. You know, I don't care what anybody wants to say about it. There's basic rules for life. Love God first. Don't have idols. Better honor marriage. It's really huge, huge. I know that. And don't be torturing animals, and establish good laws. You know, there's just some basic things. I think our founding fathers here in America knew what they were doing. I think that's why part of the reason this land's been blessed. So, at any rate, that's it.